being here. So Kamara is a resume writer, LinkedIn consultant, and job search strategist who helps clients worldwide dare to do work differently. I love that. I love that, because we've got to really think outside the box now that this life has shaken us up, right? So that's amazing. So whether a bold and brazen professional ready to shake things up and make a big career change, a go-getting manager primed to score a well-deserved promotion, or a high-impact executive strategizing their next career transition, Kamara helps her clients land great fitting gigs. Serving clients globally, Kamara has worked with high-achieving professionals from Canada, US, UK, Australia, Japan, India. You don't speak all these languages, do you? Oh,
Morning.
Gonna say, holy cow, that's a lot of countries. A trusted job searching expert, Kamara was recognized as LinkedIn's top voice in 2020. That's amazing. Top voice in 2020.
Yeah, thank you.
Great for job searching careers. Kamara's been featured in major media, including Forbes, Business Insider, the Wharton School of Business Radio, and LinkedIn News, among others. That's amazing. So we're like, we're surrounded here by a job search celebrity.
I don't know about that, but thank you. I'm blushing over here.
Well, thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. And I will leave you to it. So I'll be back just towards the end, just once you finish your questions. So again, if anyone has any questions, just stick them in the session chat, and Kamara will get to them when she's done her content. So I'll leave you to it, and I'll be back towards the end.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you. My pleasure. And thank you, everybody, for joining me today. And I think that this is a jam-packed, valuable event. And I know you just came from another event. So thank you for making time for me. And I hope that you walk away with a lot of actionable takeaways, really, from this event. So my name is Kamara Toffolo, and as mentioned, and as Rachel also mentioned, I was a LinkedIn top voice this year, JobScan top job search strategist to follow in 2019. I've been featured in a variety of media, and my clients are all over the world, as Rachel mentioned. So what's ahead today in our session? So I've got 20 minutes to teach you as much as I can about dealing with the pandemic when it comes specifically to your resume. So this is a lot of information that I'm going to throw at you. And as mentioned, if you have questions, please do type them in the session chat. So not the event chat, but the session chat, and I will circle back to them. I won't be able to see them right now because I'm looking at my presentation, but I will certainly come back to them. So today we're going to talk about what to do before you write your resume. This is as important as writing your resume. We're going to talk about tracking and taking stock of work wins, very important before piece when it comes to writing your resume. We're going to take a look at writing your resume in a pandemic. So pandemic specific strategies and tips. Things are changing in job searching, and I want to make sure that you're prepared. And we're really going to focus on the professional experience and skills section of your resume, because this is where you're going to see the greatest amount of change on your resume. And then we'll have our Q&A. So if you just came into the event, please do feel free to put your questions, type them into the session chat, and I will get to them at the end. I won't be able to see them as I'm going through my presentation. So let's dive in. So the big challenge with resume writing and job searching is standing out. It's never been more difficult to stand out. Competition is at its fiercest right now, and with the unemployment rate high because of COVID-19, it's just very challenging out there for a job seeker. So we really need to make sure that our resume is telling a really strong story, and a variety of stories, really. So let's dive in a bit further. So I talked about the before writing your resume part being so very important, and it really, really is. And so before you write your resume, you want to identify what your target job is. Now, this doesn't have to be your dream job, the be-all, end-all job, the job of your lifetime. It does not have to be that. It can be a bridge job. It can be a job that will take you from one thing to the next thing. It can be a job to make ends meet. But you need to be very clear on what it is that you're going after. If you're at a point where you're thinking, I'll take a job, any job, I'm keeping my options open, just give me a job, that makes it very difficult for recruiters and hiring folks to see where you fit in their organization. So you need to tell them, and in telling them, or in order to tell them, you need to have a very clear target. So I liken it to, you don't really start cooking a meal before you know what you're making, right? So really be clear on that target. And for the second thing you need to do before writing your resume, it's you need to identify what you have already accomplished. How have you demonstrated the strengths and skills that will be desirable or required in your target job? And so I liken that to, what ingredients do you already have in your kitchen, or what ingredients do you have in your pantry that you can use to create that great meal? So we really need to have a good, strong, confident idea of what we've already done. All right, so the great way for us to track our great things that we've done in work is with a work wins file. So this is where we take stock and keep track of our work wins. So the great things that we've done on the job. It's basically a brain dump of our awesomeness. It's all the good and amazing things. I really encourage you, if you have not started to do this in terms of tracking your work wins, to build this habit now. It's vital for writing your resume, because this is basically the content of your resume, as well as if you ever want to ask for a promotion or a raise, the work wins file will help you back up that ask. Now, when you are tracking your work wins, I don't want you to filter what you're typing in the work wins. Just write it down. Your resume is where you refine your stories and edit. Some examples of what might go in a work wins file is your project highlights, let's say, where you may have gone above and beyond, as an example, how you may have changed things for the better, where you exhibited leadership. Those are all examples of what you might track on an ongoing basis. And when you do track these, the medium in which I encourage you to track them is, say, Google Docs or iCloud Notes, somewhere where you can access this file at any given time. So let's say you're on a walk and you all of a sudden remember, that project that I did a great job on last month. You can use your phone to type down some notes before you forget it. So this is really, really important, because this is going to be the building blocks of your resume. And I'm going to be mentioning my YouTube channel throughout this video, or throughout this presentation, but I do have a full video on how to track your work accomplishments on my YouTube channel, and I'll give you the link when we wrap up. Okay, so this is not a presentation where I'm going to go through all the basics of resume writing. This is kind of that level up, like, how do I stand out in a pandemic? And so we're really digging into the skills section of a resume as well as our professional experience section. So we're not going to spend a lot of time here, because this is not what's really important. So first of all, because of COVID, a lot of us are experiencing career gaps or periods of unemployment. And if you find yourself in that situation, I want you to know that you're not alone. Many, many, many people are in a similar situation or in the same situation as yourself. Even though a career gap reason like COVID-19 may be obvious to us, to most people, we still need to explain it on our resumes. A recruiter friend of mine tweeted not long ago that one of his clients, so an employer, asked him, "Oh, I see this person's been off work since March. Why is that?" I mean, that's obvious to most of us, but for some reason that employer didn't clue in that it was because of COVID-19. So we need to make it very obvious to anyone who's reading our resume why we may have a career gap. So when we're explaining a career gap on our resume, it just needs to be like a 1-line or 2-line kind of thing. We want to emphasize how we've also been spending this period of unemployment in ways that are not job searching. So things like volunteering, upskilling through courses like self-development courses, and things like that. Those are all great things to bring in to this career gap explanation. And I have a ton of videos, not a ton, maybe 4 videos, feels like a ton of videos on my YouTube channel about addressing career gaps. I have a whole COVID-19 playlist. And again, I'm going to give you the link when we wrap up. So this is how I would address a career gap explanation for someone. So the first bullet is we're talking about the fact that this person was laid off due to COVID-19. And then the second bullet shows how they've been spending their time, and that's taking continuing education courses in whatever their specialty may be, or whatever strengths they want to highlight that they're developing. So another thing with COVID-19 is we really need to showcase our tech savvy. Like, it's never been more important to be tech proficient. The reason for this is because tech, and specifically collaboration tools, make it possible for us to work remotely and collaborate virtually with our teams. And so collaboration tools that come to mind and are commonly used, for examples, are G Suite, Microsoft Teams, Zoom, Slack. So when we have those skills, we need to highlight that we know how to use them. And the way we identify the skills that are, or the tech skills that are desired or required by our target job, is by scrutinizing job postings and seeing what tech jumps out to us as being required. So it's really important that you review your target job postings. And if you're moving into like a tech heavy role, I'm thinking someone who's moving into development, or who is a developer, or data analytics, or a data heavy role, or even digital marketing, you may consider having a separate section from your skills section that's technical acumen specifically, because you may have a huge number of tech skills that need to be noted down. And the way to kind of reinforce that you have these tech skills is through your accomplishments. And so your accomplishments are typically your bullets on your resume. Okay, let's talk about amplifying with accomplishments. So accomplishments are the meat of your resume. They're the most important part. They reinforce the skills you claim in your skills section or your technical acumen section. So when we're writing our accomplishments, we really want to write with COVID-19 in mind. So examples might be how you helped your team transition to remote work, how you led your team through uncertain times, how you helped customers navigate new ways of business, how you minimize business disruptions, how you maintain service levels, how you use tech to maintain service levels or minimize business disruption. So these are just a few examples, and I'm sure that you can come up with a lot more ideas of how you've used or how you've helped through COVID. So those are just a few thoughts that came to my mind. And your accomplishments, again, this is why that work wins file that I mentioned in the earlier part of the presentation is so important, because those are the building blocks of your accomplishments. And when you're writing your accomplishments, you really need to consider, how does this accomplishment showcase that I can solve my employer's business need? So when you're writing your resume, you always want to be mindful of what problem does my employer have and how am I solving it? In terms of quantifiable accomplishments versus non-quantifiable accomplishments, I'm sure you've heard tons about quantifiable accomplishments, so putting numbers into your accomplishments. Quantifying is good because it helps the reader develop a visual really easily. But we don't always want to quantify our accomplishments, and we only want to do so when it makes sense. So we don't want to quantify, for example, if adding a number will diminish our work. And we don't want to quantify when it also makes us seem unqualified. So as an example, if we're used to managing budgets of $50,000, let's say annually, and we're expected to manage budgets in, the hundreds of thousands in our target job, we might not want to show that we've only worked with $50,000 of a budget in the past, because it might make us seem unqualified. Okay, so just checking the time. I've got 4 minutes left. So tackling career transformation. I think a lot of us are going through career transformations and changes now with COVID-19. I'm seeing it a lot. So as I mentioned, many people are making shifts. Again, knowing your target job is essential. They're like critical. It's absolutely necessary. You must know what target you're going after. When you are going through a career transformation, you want to try and rebrand and reframe on your resume. So reframe your work accomplishments in a way that will make sense to your target role, your new target role, and your new target employer or employers. And I want you to stop worrying about what is a transferable skill and what isn't a transferable skill. All skills are transferable. There is no one skill that isn't transferable. It's just all skills are transferable skills. But what's really important is that you know what skills are desired and required in your target job so that you highlight those skills and not the unnecessary skills. So when we're writing a kind of career transformation resume, we need to focus on 5 R's. We need to reframe, like I already mentioned. We need to make sure that what we're sharing is relevant to our target job and target employer, that it relates to our target job and target employer, that it reinforces the strengths, again, that are required and desired and required in our target job, and that it resonates with our target employer. So we want to make sure that we're really speaking their language, and we can get some clues and cues in terms of employer language, again, from job postings. Job postings reveal a lot to us, so make sure you study those. And I want to talk to you about remote work, because a lot of us are looking for remote work now, obviously. So if you worked remotely, you need to make it clear that you did so. As an example, you might say you worked remotely from Waterloo, Ontario to, say, the headquarters in Toronto, or that you were working, or that the location of your job is Toronto, Ontario, and in brackets, working remotely from home office. Here's an example that I've circled in green of how this is actually Michael Scott from The Office, his resume. And so let's say he worked from Colorado for Dunder Mifflin after he relocated. So remote from Boulder, Colorado to Scranton, Pennsylvania. So we want to make it clear to the reader that we have worked remotely and we can do work remotely. Okay, we're nearing the end. So I told you I was going to give you my link to my YouTube channel. So that is youtube.com/Kamara Toffolo Careers, or you can just go into YouTube and search Kamara Toffolo. I post a new job search related, resume related, LinkedIn related video every Tuesday at 8 a.m. And I offer free live training and questions and answers every Thursday at 8 p.m. And that's on YouTube and LinkedIn. And I just wrapped up season 1 with 22 episodes of that, and season 2 will be returning in January 2021. I also offer a free cover letter guide on my website. Again, just Google Kamara Toffolo and you'll be able to find my site. And you can also get reminders for videos by signing up for that. Sorry, and I will leave it there, and I will exit out of this and check the chat. All right. Okay, so please do feel free to put your questions in the session chat. I do see a few questions, so I'm going to start with Dr. Verena Brands. What about if I want to entertain a certain industry but don't want to stay in the role for a long time? Okay, so maybe you, Dr. Brand, you can add some clarification in the chat about what your goal is for moving into an industry but not staying in a role, and then I can give you a more specific answer. Francisco, sorry, this is just updating. Francisco, what's your opinion about LinkedIn open to work green label on your profile picture? So I've heard mixed, I've asked a lot of recruiters about this, and I get mixed answers. I'll just tell you my position on it, and take it or leave it, really. So I prefer, so when you go into open to work settings, you have two options. You can either put that banner on your profile picture and that tells everybody you're open to work, or you can just alert recruiters. My preference is the latter. So you show the people who may be in a position of hiring that you are available, and you're not broadcasting it to the world. What's more important than a green banner is a very well composed, compelling, and complete LinkedIn profile. That's the most important, as well as an active networking strategy. So my take on that green banner is that it gives off an impression of being a passive job seeker rather than actively working on your own job search. So that's my take. Take it or leave it, up to you if you want to use it. But if at a minimum, and if you are open to work, I would use the let recruiters know I'm open to work. Okay. Katie, the tag at the bottom of the screen covered the last point. Oh no, sorry to hear that. I don't know why that. Oh, okay. Sorry. I think there's a recording of this that may be put up. But the recording may show that that's hidden as well. So sorry about that. Let me know what specific questions you have that may have been covering them, and I'll let you know. Thank you, Justin. Brajesh, is it okay to have a 3-page resume? Yes, but I would wonder why you're on 3 pages. So I don't typically write a 3-page resume. Sometimes I do, but I don't typically. But when I do, the folks I write 3-page or more page resumes for tend to be in the C-suite. So yeah, a resume needs to be as long as it needs to be. So if that's 2 pages, 3 pages, it doesn't really, like, there's no rules around length, but I would want to know more about how much work experience you have, as well as what you're targeting, to get a better idea of whether 3 pages is really necessary. So if you want to share that in the chat, feel free. Okay, Dr. Brand, I am very interested in vitro diagnostics. My background is in life science research management. I did an extra training in quality control assurance, which also included method development and validation, regulatory affairs, and clinical research. But I only have a very old 4-year only have a very old 4-year industry experience. I want to get back into industry, but most roles require more experience in regulatory affairs, for example. Okay, so it sounds like you need to take possibly a lower level role in order to gain the experience. Let me scroll up to see your original question. So, I mean, if you need to strategically move into a role for a temporary period of time, I would discourage you from telling people that you need to do that. And I would treat it like any other job search. Yeah, it does not help your job search and does not help your candidacy to indicate that you would only be wanting or willing to be in a role for a short period of time. I would advise you to just take the role, like, very much take the role seriously that you want to move into, even albeit for a temporary period of time. Treat it as a typical target job, and make sure that you are writing your resume towards that target job and interviewing for the target job as though you really want it, which I presume that you do. But I would really just be hesitant to say anything about this is only a temporary job for me. That would be a big time red flag to anyone in hiring. If you had a different question, let me know, and I can answer that for you. Okay, Brajesh, you've worked in different industries. If I add all experience, it goes to 3 pages, or I need to remove it. Currently, I keep only those which are relevant. Okay, so it sounds to me like you are including too much about your jobs, and that your work, what you're writing on your resume, actually isn't targeted enough. So just because you've worked in a multitude of industries doesn't mean that you need to have a long resume. What's most important is that you're writing your work experience and accomplishments in a way that is, again, going back to those 5 R's, you reframe your work experience and accomplishments so that they are relevant to your target job and that they reinforce the strengths and skills needed in that target job, that they relate to that target job, and they resonate with the target employer. And so I also wouldn't encourage you to just cut work experience because it might seem irrelevant. It's your job as a job seeker and a resume and your own resume writer to reframe the work experience so it makes sense to the target job and target employer. So I suspect that you are including too much information about your duties and too little information about your accomplishments. So you should really have 3 to 5 bullets of accomplishments per role, and a small paragraph that speaks to your actual responsibilities and mandate in that role. So I think you'll be able to shorten it up a bit if you make that shift. Let me know what other questions you have around that. Katie, if we are including relevant work experience, would it look like we have gaps when we don't? That's exactly the problem that I'm worried Brajesh is running into. So we don't want to cut work experience simply because we might perceive it as irrelevant. As I just mentioned to Brajesh, it's your job to make the experience, to draw out the parts of the experience that will resonate with your target employer. So let's see. Let me give you an example. So let's say I am working in technical sales, like software sales. It's important and I want to move into a more technical role where I am, I want to become a developer, let's say. So because I've sold the product, I have a good awareness of it. And so my knowledge of the product would be very relevant to my new career as a software developer. So I need to take an accomplishment, let's say a sales accomplishment, and I need to reframe it into more so a product and customer needs accomplishment. So I believe that most work experience can be reframed to emphasize the skills and strengths that are relevant and related to the target job. So it's really your job it takes some really heavy thinking, but it's your job to really identify and draw out the work you did or reframe the work you did that's relevant to your target direction. Do not just go chopping work experience. We're reframing it. We're shifting it. We're reshaping it. So that makes sense. Okay, let's see what we've got here. Okay, Dr. Brand. I really like the company. I would like to stay longer if there's potential for growth and work my way up or shift horizontally. How do you address this and when? Sorry, I'm just... Okay. All right. So you can certainly talk about that in the interview, that you are excited for the potential with the company. But when we're writing our resume, when we're interviewing, it is about emphasizing how we solve business needs and business problems. So it's not about I want to get promotions really fast and move up the ladder. It's more so about I see myself growing with the company because I bring this value to the company, which I think would fit really well long term. So it's really, it's really important that you're always thinking from a place of what business problem am I solving? Okay. Katie, can we just write the job and company and dates with no bullets? No, you shouldn't. Maybe tell me a bit more about your specific situation, and I can give you some guidance on how I might approach your resume. Okay, Catherine. To reinforce Kamara's words, I've used Starbucks experience for HR information specialist in the past. Very good. That's excellent. How did you make that work? If you don't mind typing in the chat, I'd love to hear your specific success, because that's awesome. Good for you. All right. Just going to take a sip of more water. All right. I am going to just put my YouTube channel link in the chat. Hopefully it will let me do that. So it's easy for you to copy. Just click and go. And you can also grab, I will give you my cover letter guide too. Right, Katie. So my question is more so, why would you not want to include bullets, I think? So tell me more specifically about why don't you want to include bullets? So again, we can, like, if you look at what Catherine mentioned, so she took her work at Starbucks and reframed it to make it make sense towards a role in HR. There's always a way to kind of shape shift our work experience so that it makes sense to our target employer. There is no like relevant, irrelevant. We don't have to make that call. We just need to be very understanding of what our target employer wants from us so that we can tailor our bullets, let's say, towards, or to tell stories that will demonstrate that we can solve their business needs, solve their problem. So maybe Katie, tell me specifically what you're going, what you think your irrelevant job was and where you headed. And then I can give you a few ideas of how I might do it. Brajesh, great. I have both electrical and IT experience, so will it help to show the experience in a couple of lines? So Brajesh, tell me your target. What is your target job? And then I can advise you more specifically. Yeah, it's really, that's why me asking you what your target job is, I hope that demonstrates just really how important having a target job is. It's just so critical. We have to start with having our target job and then move into writing the resume towards it. ERP analyst, okay, all right. So, so you're asking, you have both electrical and IT experience, so will it help to show the experience in a couple of lines? Okay, so I would still include every role. I think what you might fear is going the way of irrelevant is the electrical, which I don't think is necessarily irrelevant. If you're going into if you're targeting ERP analyst, my advice around the electrical work is to draw out where you evaluated problems and identified or came up with a solution to those electrical problems, whatever they may have been. That demonstrates analysis strength. So I don't see that as actually irrelevant at all. I think that there's quite a few potential relevant pieces that you can draw from. So let me know if you have some specific questions around that. All right. If you need to go to the next session, feel free, but I will be here for a few more minutes answering questions. Yeah, Katie, let me know about your job that you were worried about being irrelevant, and how or what you're targeting now, and I can help you with that. And I'll just give it a few more minutes. Hopefully those links worked. Great, Brajesh, that's great. Excellent. And to make those accomplishments even more relevant, I would add some very strong specifics around those. So we're not just saying, so with the example I gave you earlier, we don't just want to say that I identified electrical problems and then evaluated them and then provide solutions. Let's get real specific about it, like that you maybe even so much as think of the biggest problem you solved, electrical problem, let's say the biggest electrical problem that you solved, and what potential problems you prevented, like what potential impact you prevented. Did you prevent a fight? Like, I'm just thinking if you were an electrician, sorry, I'm just making an assumption, but did your work prevent fire? Did your work enable a building, and of what size, to have electricity so that they could operate? There's various ways to measure it, but get really specific so that the reader can create a picture in their mind, like, I can see Brajesh doing this, like, and I can see just how much impact he had through his work. So that's what I would really recommend, is be as specific as possible. Dr. Brand, how can I reframe lifeguard experience towards a position in the life science industry? Ooh, okay. First of all, when was your lifeguard experience? Was it before you went to school or during school, like post-secondary? Oh, wow. Okay. All right. So, and remind me again the title that you're going after in your target job title, position name? Regulatory Affairs Specialist. Okay. So, as a lifeguard, did you lead other lifeguards? I think you just answered your own question, honestly. So, fantastic. So, if you had to implement rules and regulations as a lifeguard, you can really draw a similarity to regulatory affairs in terms of a strong understanding of policy, really, policy and regulations, and how you ensured that policy was adhered to, how you interacted with either management or external stakeholders at the pool, or in terms of the water quality company, whomever that was, or the city. I don't know who oversees that. Yeah, I think you've got a lot to work from here. Now that you told me that you had to implement rules and regulations. So I think that you answered your own question, really, because there's a strong connection between implementing rules and regulations and being in regulatory affairs. So hope that helps. Okay, any other questions? You're very welcome. Any other questions? I will wrap up here if there are no further questions. Just give it a minute. So as mentioned, as you can see on the slide that's open here, please do feel free to head over to my YouTube channel and subscribe so that you can be notified of new videos every Tuesday. And I will be going live again starting in the early new year. And on my live training, I welcome other career specialists and experts, and I often interview them. So these folks might include recruiters, other career coaches, other resume writers, who all have just super valuable advice, and we do open it up to questions every episode as well. So I think you'll find that helpful. Okay, I see no further questions, so all the best to everyone. Take care and enjoy the holidays.